All right, today we're heading to southern Taiwan to check out a city called Tainan. Now, at first glance, it looks like a bustling modern city. But trust me, just beneath the surface is this incredible 400-year-old story of empires clashing, cultures mixing, and a legacy that really shaped what Taiwan is today. This line right here, it just nails the essence of Tainan. This place wasn't just another old city, it was a genuine crossroads. I mean, a place where these wildly different cultures literally met, fought it out, and then somehow fused into something totally new. So together, we're going to peel back those layers one by one.
But before we hop in our time machine, let's get a feel for the Tainan of right now. You know, what's it actually like to walk these streets today?
Well, one of the first things people notice about Tainan is the change of pace. Life just feels a bit slower here. The people are famously friendly and outgoing, and hey, the weather is warm and comfortable pretty much all year round. Plus, and this is a big bonus for travelers, it's pretty easy to get around, with a lot of signs and museum info translated into English. And don't go thinking this is some small, sleepy town. Nope. We're talking about a city with over 1.8 million people, making it Taiwan's sixth largest. It's a major city for sure, but one with this really cool, relaxed, historic soul. So that really begs the question, right? How did Tainan get this way? What series of events created this unique, welcoming city? To find the answers, we've got to look at the clues that are still standing, the silent witnesses to its past. Okay, our first step back in time takes us to an era of massive empires, where you had the Qing dynasty from China and colonial Japan leaving these huge fingerprints all over the landscape. Tainan's history is literally written in its forts, and they tell two completely different stories. You've got the Eternal Golden Castle, built by the Qing dynasty for one reason, to defend against Japan. But then you have Fort Onping, which started out as a trading base for the Dutch. And here's the crazy part. Japan is central to the fate of both. The cannons from one were sold off by the Japanese, while the other was completely rebuilt by them. And let's put a name to that history. The guy behind the Eternal Golden Castle was Shen Baozhen, a really important Qing official. He built this massive fortress back in 1874 because the threat of Japan invading was very, very real. This wasn't just for show. This timeline really puts it all into perspective, showing just how fast power was shifting. It all kicks off in 1624 with the Dutch. Then, more than 250 years later, the Qing build their fort. And then, get this, just 2 decades after that, in 1895, Japan takes over the whole island. You can just imagine how unstable things must have felt. But this brings up a really good question. We know the Qing and the Japanese were huge players, but who was there before them? To really get the full story of Tainan, we have to go back even further and meet the legendary warlord who kicked the Europeans out in the first place. And that brings us to a legendary figure from the Ming Dynasty, a warlord known as Koxinga. His arrival was, no exaggeration, a major turning point for the entire island of Taiwan. So, who was this Koxinga guy? Well, his real name was Zheng Chengong. He was a Ming loyalist, meaning he was still fighting for the old dynasty against the new Qing emperors who'd taken over China. He looked at Taiwan, which was controlled by the Dutch at the time, and saw it as the perfect base of operations to continue his fight. So he sailed over and drove the Europeans out. Koxinga's victory was a massive deal. Suddenly, Tainan wasn't just some colonial trading post anymore. It became the capital of his whole operation and the most important city in Taiwan. And that status kicked off this huge wave of immigration from mainland China, which completely changed the island's demographics forever. And you can still feel his influence there today. You can actually visit the Koxinga Shrine. It's the only official shrine dedicated to him on the entire island. Right next to it is the Taiwan Cultural Museum, which dives deep into his story and also showcases all the local culture, like clothing and puppetry, that really blossomed in the city he helped build. Okay, so Koxinga drove out the Dutch. But that leaves us with one final, really fundamental question. Why was a European country like the Netherlands all the way over in southern Taiwan to begin with? To answer that, we have to go all the way back to the start of the story. This is it, the very first layer of our historical deep dive. Before the Qing, before Koxinga, it was the Dutch. They were the ones who laid the very first stone of this entire 400-year history. Picture this. The year is 1624. The Dutch East India Company shows up wanting to set up a major trading hub. They build a fortress and name it Fort Zeelandia. And that single act is what kicked off Tainan's long, complicated, and fascinating relationship with the rest of the world. And what is Fort Zeelandia today? Well, it's the exact same place we now call Fort Amping. But after centuries of fighting, getting torn down, and being rebuilt by different rulers, there's very little of the original 17th century Dutch fort left. All you can really see are these fragments of the old brick walls, like a faint echo of the European traders who started this whole thing. So as we pull our focus back to the present day, it becomes really clear that Tainan isn't just a city with history. It's a city literally made of its history. It feels like every single street corner has a story to tell. And here they are, all those layers we've been talking about, stacked right on top of each other. It starts with the Dutch trading base. That becomes a stronghold for Ming loyalists. Then that gets absorbed by the Qing dynasty, who build forts to fight off the Japanese. Then the Japanese rule for a while, leaving their own architecture. And all of that now exists inside modern Taiwanese culture. It's like the most incredible historical sandwich you can imagine. This quote from our source just says it all, doesn't it? Tainan is a wonderful mix. It's not just one thing or the other. It's the product of all these different influences coming together. And it's so important to remember that this also includes the indigenous cultures that were there long before anyone else arrived. That's a whole other foundational layer to this city's amazing story. And that really leaves us with a final thought. Tainan's story is such a powerful reminder that history is almost never simple. It's messy and it's layered. So the next time you walk through an old city, anywhere in the world, just think about what might lie beneath the surface. How many different worlds, how many conflicts, and how many cultures are you walking on top of without even realizing it?